Yes, we're live.
Hi, God bless. I'm back. So like I said, he is the God of second chances and he gives you many chances, right? That's the beautiful thing about God. So Mary Magdalene was also the first person to see Jesus after his resurrection. To be able to experience him in such a special way. After she saw him crucified, after she saw him beaten, after she saw him going through the pain that he did, to see him restored, to see him in all his glory, and to be able to be the first one. How special is that? And for her to recognize him, right? So, what do we learn from Mary Magdalene, from the Samaritan woman, and from Paul? Why should we be grateful to them that their encounters are in their Bible, that their experiences with God, with a mighty God, is in the Bible, right? So let's start with the Samaritan woman. You know what? Can you write in the chat, what are you grateful for the Samaritan woman? What does the word teach you that you should be grateful for when you think about the encounter of the Samaritan woman and Jesus, about that experience that she has? I'm gonna talk about what it is, but what I felt. But I want you to tell me why is this the story of the Samaritan woman so important? Number one, she teaches us about the importance of being open, of allowing someone to be honest with us and to tell us, you know what, this is what you're doing wrong. She teaches us to accept when we're not doing right, when we can be different, right? She teaches us the importance of recognizing God. At that point, right, when she says, "Oh my God, you are a prophet," and then she says, "I gotta share you with everybody." You know what? Sometimes we fail to recognize God, and we say we love him and we say we have a relationship with him, and we don't even realize that he is talking to us. We don't realize that he is trying to warn us, right? The Samaritan teaches us that we don't need to be mad with God when he points at our faults. A lot of us don't, we tell people, let me know what you think, or tell me if you think I'm not doing things right, and when they do, we get so upset, we don't want to talk to them, we're offended, we're, you know what, when I read the story of the Samaritan woman, I don't feel like she's offended. She's talking about it and she expresses herself, but I don't hear her like offended with Jesus, right? Listen, do you want to be the child of God he wants you to be? There's going to be moments where he's going to make you feel something in your heart, and it's him telling you you're not doing things right, or you got to change this, or how will you react? How will you react? Right? The Samaritan teaches us that God can fill whatever void we have. The Samaritan woman was obviously lacking something, that she had so many different partners. Was she looking for love?
We have a
Was
response.
she? Oh, go, Sarah. What's the response?
Sorry. Um,
That's okay.
Jenny Jenny wrote, I'm grateful for I'm grateful that Jesus came to look for me like he went to her, even when she wasn't looking for him.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And that's it, right? She wasn't looking for him, but Jesus, I remember Tabby preached about this. Jesus had to go through Samaria. He had to do that encounter. And that's so beautiful, right? Because Jesus is looking for you, whether or not you're looking for him or you're paying attention to him. He's looking for you. His reason for coming down here is to save you, to give you hope, right? To help you correct those things that need to be corrected, to transform you, right? Whatever void you have, God can fill it with whatever you need. And so, somebody who like assesses things and assesses people, or was trained to do that. I wonder if it was love that the Samaritan woman was looking for. Does it tell me about her childhood? Right? It doesn't matter what age you are. God can fill that void that you have with exactly what you need. So that's why I'm so grateful that that story is in the Bible, that her story is in the Bible, and we have access to it.
Carlos also responded. He said, I'm thankful for being exposed to the Word of God and for acquiring a new understanding of how life is meant to be lived. Amen, Carlos.
Beautiful, right? And the Samaritan woman and all these three were exposed to the verb, right? To the word, right? To Jesus. How beautiful is that? They had an encounter with the word, the living word, like Jesus was literally there. Mary Magdalene. Wow, that God gives us second chances. Again, I said that before, right? That Jesus isn't looking for perfect people. Um, Mary Magdalene's story tells us that we can be going through tons of things. We can be um, going through sickness. We can be going through difficulties, right? And that here comes God. I want to save you. Here comes Jesus to help excise her of these seven demons. Now, we use demons, but they can be infirmities. The word demon was used at those times to describe many things, but whatever she was dealing with, it was affecting her, and she was known by it, right? Jesus isn't looking for perfect people. God is not looking for perfect people. God is looking for people who are sick, right? The hospital is not a waiting room. It is not the place for the, I mean, sorry, the church is a hospital for sick people, right? The church is a hospital for those in need, not a waiting room for saints. So, God is not looking for perfect people, right? Jesus can use women as his instruments, right? I already said the Samaritan woman, Mary Magdalene. He can use women as their instruments. Um, God can use anyone he chooses. That's the reality. We look at people when maybe we put limits on people, but God looks at people and he knows the truth, right? God uses anybody he wants to in whichever capacity that he chooses, right? And I left Paul for last. Um, you guys know I love Paul, right? It doesn't matter why am I grateful that Paul's story is in the Word. Paul's story reminds me that listen, it doesn't matter what position you may be in. God always has a better place. Paul was described as the Pharisee of Pharisees. He was this very like high guy. He made big decisions, right? Do you know what? God put him somewhere better. God had a bigger role for him to play, a bigger role for him to play in the kingdom. And that's what I love about Paul's story, right? Doesn't matter what position you're in, God always has a better place. So, you know what? You're the CEO of a company. Don't look down on people. You're a janitor. Don't look down on people. You are a teacher. Don't look down on people. You're a lawyer. Don't look down on people. Whatever role you're in, don't look down on people. You know why? Because according in the eyes of God, we're all vessels. We're all instruments, right? When we encounter God, there is a change. We have an identity change, or there should be, right? Paul went from this high position, high place, and to his name being changed to Paul, meaning little. And there was nothing little about what God had in store for Paul, but it was kind of like a reminder, right? You have to decrease so that I can increase. Paul teaches that. Paul's encounter, he doesn't teach us that, but his encounter with God teaches that sometimes we have to decrease so that God can increase in our lives. Right? Paul's story. I'm grateful for Paul's experience put in the Bible because it teaches us that we have to be small to be great. That stepping into God's purpose, if you step into God's purpose, you will be of impact. Maybe it's impact on a small scale, it could be impact on a great scale. But when we choose to step into, or I feel like Paul didn't choose, like God was like, you're doing this, right? But when we step into God's purpose, we will be of impact. When we fully embrace what God has for us, we can transform lives. We can be an instrument that God uses. I mean, I am so grateful for Paul teaching me the importance, right? For this being in the word, the importance of committing to God and doing it even when you're afraid, when you have people looking at you and doubting. Because the believers couldn't believe that this guy, isn't this Saul of Tarsus? This is Paul. This is Paul now. Isn't this Saul the guy who was persecuting us? This is Paul now. People will judge you, right? And this is where I was getting to, right? I love that Paul's story is in the Bible because it tells us that others may not believe what God is doing or has done, but when we stand firm and persevere, we can change them too. Right? We can be of impact and be of change and help others change. You know, I love that Paul's experiences in the Bible. You know why? Because in Philippians 4 it tells me that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Who would have written that? Right? In 2 Corinthians, Paul writes that God's grace is sufficient and our weaknesses are perfected through his power. Right? God's power is perfected in when we are weak, he perfects us. Right? His grace is sufficient. Where else can we find that we are crucified with Christ? We are different. I'm thankful for those. I'm thankful for everything that is in the word, and I'm thankful for everything that we get from the experiences of these three people. What did your encounter with God do? What are you grateful for? And how can that encounter help transform somebody else? How can that experience that you had with God serve as a stepping stone to someone else's salvation? Right? If I were to read your story, if I were to, oh, look, it's the story of Jenny, right? Jenny participated, of Carlos, of Leslie. What would your story be? What would that encounter be? What would be that thing that I'm saying, oh my God, and from this person's story, this is what I learned. What would your narrative be? I know for me, I have so many. I think, once I was sick, and God has been my healer. God has healed me, right? Over and over again. Physical healing, emotional healing, right? He's my healer. I think my story would talk about God's healing power, right? God's ability to take what doctors say and say, don't worry, I have a better plan. I don't know if there's anybody who participate or if anybody else wants to say what they're grateful to God or what their story would be, you know? So, um, I just want to thank you guys for joining tonight, for listening to this simple chat. Right, this ordinary chat about an extraordinary God. We serve such a mighty God, and there's so many things that he gives us to be grateful for, right? Whether it's our salvation or our healing or just the provision that he gives us, right? The finances. There's so much we can thank him for. But today I'm just thanking him for the word, for what we find in the word, for the real the life the lives that we find in the word, the experiences that we find in the word that really are us. Really tell our story in a way. So I'm just grateful to God for his word, the living word, that how many thousands of years ago has it been that these people existed, and their story is still impacting us. So God bless you, God keep you. If there's nobody who wrote a response in the chat, then I'm done. But if there is a response, you can read it out. Um,
No responses.
all right. So God bless you guys and God keep you. Good night.